Hi, welcome to week 3 of Scripture Shared. Where over the course of this series, we are taking a look at the parables. We hope that you've gotten a lot out of this series so far with your small group or with someone else. And today, I'm Reverend Thomas Harper, pastor of prayer ministry, and I'm with Reverend Michelle Manuel, who's pastor of small groups. Hello.
Hello.
Glad you're here with me
I'm
today.
glad you're here.
Because today we get to talk about the end times and judgment and the coming kingdom. I've always been fascinated by the cultural fascination with when is the end time coming, or when is Christ coming back?
Yes. Well, I think it's interesting, that that the culture is so obsessed with this eschatology. I had to practice saying that word in preparation for this.
You did great.
Eschatology, that's a fun word to use at parties. It means the end times. But the culture, I think, is so obsessed with it because it's kind of scary sounding. It's kind of looming. And then there was that great series of young adult novels, right?
Tim LaHaye, the Left Behind series.
Left Behind series.
Yeah.
And
Very popular.
I was shocked to learn in seminary, having been a United Methodist my whole life, that many United Methodists don't believe in a rapture as it is depicted in these Left Behind novels.
Well, I've had a lot of great debates with friends about, post-tribulation, pre-tribulation. Makes me think about like the late great planet Earth in the 80s. It seems like every single generation has this like, is this the end times?
Yeah.
Or when is the end times coming? And I have to think that's got to be something about us that we want to we want to get there, or we want to know so that maybe we can work the formula out so that when Jesus comes around, we're ready to go.
Absolutely.
And I think how much more so for that generation who was right in the midst of it, who was living with Jesus and thought that Jesus was going to come back right away, that must have been heavily on their minds, to the point at which they asked, like, Jesus, when is this coming? Master, when is this coming? And I see this addressed a lot in the parables that we're talking about today.
Absolutely. They thought that Jesus was coming back. The second coming was going to be so quickly. And who can blame them? Because many of them saw Jesus ascend.
Right.
And saw, like, come back, Lord, come back. If you had heard his words, if you were able to hear those red letters being spoken, of course you would want Jesus to come back. And of course you would want no more tears on this earth, no more pain, right? So I think it does say something about our longing that we want the end times to come, as odd or as unknown as they may be. Today's parables tell us a lot about the end times and also nothing at all.
Right. Because you look at the parable of the doorkeeper, the 10 virgins, you do not know when it's coming. And over again, Jesus is saying, keep ye vigilant because you do not know when the master is coming. Be ready because you don't know the hour. Blessed is the servant who is active and prepared when the master is at the door. And I think that's kind of Jesus turning the question on back to its asker and saying, you're not going to know.
Right.
So just live into your faith. Just act as if it's always ready because it's more important to what you are doing.
Right.
There is a picture on Reverend Katie Montgomery Mears' desk that sits behind her. So anytime that I meet with her, it's funny because I kind of look at it and it's kind of a play on this. But it shows Jesus knocking at the door and it says, Jesus is here, look busy. And I think that's kind of captures the image of we would like to not have to know or not have to live authentically. We would like to just know when the master's coming so we can be busy when he gets here. And Jesus in these parables is warning us against that.
Yeah, I think as a culture, we are so goal-oriented. And if we knew the when, then I think we'd be preparing for it. But instead, it says that run the race that's before you. Well, this race is a marathon, man. It's not a sprint. Yeah. And so we do have to live that authentic faith, just doing the next right thing, forgiving, loving, including.
And isn't that so much more the gospel? Isn't that so much more the relationship that we have between God and others? Whereas if we could just have it all laid out for us, we could check the boxes and be like, well, I have done my duty. I went to church. I'll know a month before Jesus comes back and I'll give my life to Christ.
Right.
Another parable that we talk about today is the Great Banquet. And it kind of talks about what the inbreaking of the kingdom will look like. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Reading that parable, the Great Banquet, I think that there's going to be a lot of people at the table that we didn't expect would be at the table. I mean, that's what this parable is telling us. It reminds me of Dr. Christina Cleveland's work, Disunity in Christ. And in that book, the first chapter, she says, as a young Christian, she believed in the good Christian and bad Christian. And very quickly, as she dove deeper into her faith, she realized, oh, who I deem as bad Christian, who I deem as very annoying Christian, they might be in heaven. I might have to spend eternity with them, right?
Right.
And so at the banquet, there's going to be people who we would never expect.
Yeah, that was the book that you recommended.
I did recommend that.
So that's one of them. So
Yes.
yeah, I love this image that the God has set this, or the banquet owner has set this banquet out, and that people either aren't there or aren't ready. And he's like, well, that's unacceptable. Like,
Absolutely.
my house, my party is
want it
going
full.
to be full.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
So
want
go
it
out
full.
into the streets and find them and bring them in, so that the kingdom will be filled.
Right.
And that will be a party.
Right. The table is set. It's those who choose to come.
So another one that I'm just so fascinated by is this parable of the wheat and the weeds that we get to look at this week, and how Jesus talks about this, again, already not yet
Right.
imagery that we see all throughout the inbreaking of the kingdom. That when is the end time? Well, the end time's now, but it's also happening. It's also coming. And so you have this image of the master planting the seeds, and then the evil one coming in the middle of the night and planting weeds amongst it, and they both grow up together. And the workers want to rip it all up right away,
Right.
and say, well, there's weeds here, we need to take care of this. And Jesus says, no, let them grow together, and in the end, one will be saved and one will be casted into the fire. Tell me some thoughts that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I love these gardening type of this imagery, because back in the day before I worked full time, I was a gardener, and so the fig tree,
You're a
the
green
barren
thumb.
fig. I had a green thumb in Kentucky. In Texas, I have nothing.
Okay.
I have nothing. But the fig tree and all that. There are certain poisons per se that you can put out that will target the weeds and things, but there are certain ones that if you're not careful, it will kill the whole thing. It'll kill all the plants, and it will make the soil terrible. And so in the fig tree specifically, Jesus is saying, not right now. We're not doing this whole thing. We're not wiping everything out. We're gonna wait. We're gonna sow into this. There is good stuff there, and it's gonna spring forth.
And I think we are so quick to want to parse out wheats and weeds, like, oh, y'all, this is an example of something that will not go into eternity, and this is an example of something that has been established. And I think it's good for us to remember that God's work is not done,
Right.
and that God's work is continuing to transform and continuing to redeem, and that redemption might look different than we think it will.
Absolutely.
And so we want to be a part of that, and we want to be authentic and ready. But we can't see the wheat from the weeds sometimes.
Right.
And
Right.
that's an important reminder. Anything else that you think has really that's grasped you in this section on eschatology?
I just think that I take away from it that the when is not for us to know. We are blessed to see the inbreaking of the kingdom all around us, in our relationships, in a kind word and deed, in healing, in redemption and all that. But the end of it all, it's just not for us to know. So we've got to live out our faith as if it's already here, because it is already here.
And if we're consistently doing that, we're not obsessed with the end.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what Jesus is warning us in these parables is it's not so much about what the kingdom of heaven is going to look like. It is about living authentic faith now, so that you don't worry about that. It's already happening. So just be a part of it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Thomas.
I was captivated by this conversation about when the end time is going to be. We don't know, and that's okay. But what we can do now is live out our faith together and realize that it is happening and it will happen, and we are a part of that. So I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation. I hope you talk a little bit in your groups about what you think about the already not yet understanding of the inbreaking of the kingdom. What does it mean to live authentically? What does it mean to be active, to be vigilant, to look busy if Jesus is knocking on the door? Hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we will see you next time. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Thomas.